So this is just a few little random thoughts. I've just been sitting, reading my Bible and thinking about things, and just something crossed my mind a little bit, and it's this. So when I got saved, my starting life in God was spent in the Middle East, in Bahrain, and I lived there for 5 years, and attended an Anglican church, which was typically Anglican, very formal, and you had the pre-written service and you went through it and had a 15-minute sermon and came out. And they were nice people and so on, but the highlights were for us meetings at the US Navy base, where there was a chapel there, and they were quite open to let us come in. And there was a guy called Barjit Batasi, who was a Jordanian. He was an evangelist and a preacher, and whenever he came to speak, there was always loads of people there, because he was very good. He was straight down the line, didn't mince his words. He knew what it was to struggle, to suffer pressure and so on for the gospel, living and working among Muslims. He knew just sort of the way things were cut out, and he didn't mess about. And he would often say things, he'd say something which was challenging, and then he'd follow it up by saying, is it or not? And you knew, actually, he's right, and I need to agree with this. And then I came back to this country and joined in with charismatic end of church in Hexham, where I live, and I learned a new word which came up at the beginning of our meetings, and this is what I was thinking about, and the word was struggling, or often really struggling. And at the opening of meetings, whoever was leading would talk about people here are really struggling. You've had a hard week. It's been a hard week. It's been tough. Really struggling. And it's actually been a feature of many meetings over the last nearly 40 years I've been a Christian, that we start off focusing on what's, what really struggling is. Sorry, I'm trying not to laugh, but not very successfully. And it just gets me. And apart from anything else, actually, Sunday is not the end of the week. It's the start of a new week. And actually, we need to approach it with that attitude. We've shut the door on the past. Romans 8 tells us that the door on the past is shut. Can the present or the future separate us from God? It doesn't mention the past, because the past is gone. It can have no effect at all. So why is it that as Christians we have this thing about focusing on struggling and really struggling and how hard life is? And reflecting on the fact that when I get together with non-Christians, whether it's my extended family or other groups of people, we don't all start off by going on about how it's really hard and it's really tough, and they're facing exactly the same things that we are as believers. They're facing family up and downs, they're facing job up and downs, they're facing illnesses and even people dying and all kinds of stuff, but they don't go on like Christians do. And it's honestly, it beggars belief sometimes. In this world, Jesus says you will have trouble, and we will, and it's how we cope with it. And I think sometimes, perhaps particularly in the charismatic end of church, people have grown up thinking that somehow Jesus makes them exempt, that he's given them a free pass. And the thing I hear from time to time, and it's more than irregularly, is, why isn't God answering my prayer? Why isn't he doing this for me? Why does he allow that to happen to me? And Christians just seem to have little grasp that we are in this world and we're part of it. And actually some of it is that we carry the same burdens that other people carry, and it's how we respond to that. And if all we can do is say, oh, I'm really struggling, it's not fair, God's not looking after me, then we've really missed the point. And actually sometimes, God allows things to happen to us that are stretching, uncomfortable, challenging, because he wants to stretch us and challenge us and get us to deal with the uncomfortable things in our lives. So that's basically my mini rant, and I just long for the day when we walk into meetings and we're not focusing on me, and I, and my personal little struggles. And yes, there are people who are going through things. I'm talking with a lovely lady in our church on Sunday whose mum is having chemo for cancer at the moment. And obviously, that's a big deal. But bless her heart, she comes in with her flags to wave her flags around in the meeting, and she's not going me, and I. And I just think, we need to get real. And if non-believers, people who are not yet Christians, are suffering all the kind of stuff that they're suffering, and they see us suffering the same kind of stuff and just whinging, it doesn't really make the gospel very attractive, does it? So get a grip. It'd be good to have meetings where we're just delighted to be there. We appreciated those meetings in the Middle East. They were few and far between. We knew we were getting treasure and gold to dig at and pick at. And when you just do church Sunday in, Sunday out, and all we do is talk about how we're struggling, then it's just a bit deathly, really. It's not very interesting. Bores me silly sometimes. Anyway, and I need to stop saying I'm sorry about that. I shall try and up my game. But I look forward to the time when church is something that we look forward to encourage each other. We go in on a high and we come out on a high, rather than just going, oh, isn't it all terrible? That's me rant over. I'm going to start repeating myself soon. You'll get bored. Bye bye.